All right. Welcome, everybody. We are going to kick this thing off here in just a minute. We're going to let everyone who's running a minute late just gather in here really quick. While we just get everyone just a minute before we begin, one thing that's really fun, I'll kind of introduce myself and I'll introduce our wonderful guest with us as well. But what's really cool is just in the chat box, if you just want to chat the city and state that you're from, it's really fun to see where we're all gathering from. But my name's Landon. I'll be the host of this webinar today. I'm really, really excited. I've been with Nuvia since day one, so about a little over 3.5 years now. And I'll tell you guys, I'm really, really honored to do this webinar because after sitting down, I've sat down with an average of 8 people a day for the last 3.5 years. So, I've sat down with over 4,500 people and had this one-on-one conversation about dental implants. And so I can honestly, truthfully know like how frustrating it can be to be shopping around for dental implants and all the questions that you have and all the phony ads about government grants and fly to Turkey and so on and so forth. You get lost in this world of trying to find answers. And that's why the three of us wanted to come on and actually go over a lot of details about how we do dental implants and what's most important and what does it all cost, all the big questions, so that you can actually find good, accurate information. Not only that, but I invited 2 of our friends, first Duncan that's in Denver, Colorado, and then Bishop that's in Atlanta, Georgia. I invited them to come on because they can personally, attest per se of their experience, of what it's like getting a new smile, what it's like coming in for a consultation, what it's like going through the process. And obviously, I'm going to have them here later on share their personal journey throughout everything. But we'll also open up a Q&A as well that will allow you guys to ask us any questions. So whatever we don't cover, which we're going to cover a lot during the webinar, but anything that we don't cover, Duncan and Bishop's going to stick around for us after they share their story as well later on. And we'll make sure that we answer your questions very transparently and get you the information that you need. Okay. Other than that, I do want to make sure that we start right on time here. So with that being said, we're going to kick this off, and then Bishop and Duncan, we're going to have you guys join us here in just like maybe 15, 20 minutes and kind of just give you guys 5 or 10 minutes each to share your story. That's cool. Great. Okay. Go ahead and share this here. All right. Here we go. And then just so you guys know, as we're going over this, unfortunately, I can't see the chat box, as I'm sharing my screen. So we're going to go ahead and mute that. But when we do get to the Q&A, we will open back up that chat box and I'll be able to see that. Okay. So I'm going to go over just really quickly a lot of very good information, but I'm also going to go over how we have this special offer that we are giving to all those that are in attendance on this YouTube live webinar. Okay. And then really, we're going to cover some really great stuff. Like I was mentioning before in the intro, we're going to go over everything you know about getting dental implants, including cost, payment plans, insurance, a whole lot more. Plus, guys, this amazing new alternative to traditional dental implants and how you can get your dental implants in 24 hours. And this thing is just sweeping across the country. Like I said, I've been here since day 2. In 3 years, we've gone from 4 employees to over 650 employees. Like, this is honestly taking over the dental implant market because of how awesome this process truthfully is. So I'm going to share all the details of how we do it, okay? Also, just many of you may be in a situation where you are constantly doing what we call patchwork, and just all the dental issues and how you can actually get over those things. And also the question of just how painful is this, right? I get that question all the time. We're going to go right into that. How do we save thousands in dental costs and avoid up to 6 or 12 months? And then really the big question is just how are people paying for treatment, right? How are they making it work? I'm going to go over all those questions as well. And like I said, just insurance and all of those things. And then really just any of the big questions that obviously you need to know to be able to, make sure you make a good decision there, right? So once again, I'm also going to show you that special offer. So stay tuned to the very end. I'm going to go over that offer that's good through the month of May. That has a lot of goodies and specials in it as well. I'll kind of break it all down. So once again, for all those that are already on, really this is going to be super insightful. I'm going to go over a lot of information. Okay. So I do encourage everyone just to eliminate any distractions. If you have a loved one, a spouse, anyone that you value their opinion about your dental implant treatment, go ahead and snag them. Like I said, I'm going to go over some of the biggest questions a lot of consumers have, okay? And really, knowing that it's going to take 25 minutes or so, and you're wondering, hey, is that really worth my investment and my time? Well, let me go over a few situations, a few questions here. If you answer yes to these things, then you're in the right spot, okay? So really for you, if you think about your teeth every day in any form, okay, it's kind of a subconscious per se. And you can't eat, you have to chop your food up. You avoid healthy foods like carrots, peanuts, celery, things like that. Or you have to chop up your food into tiny pieces and you're afraid you're going to choke, okay? Not only from a function, but a lot of you may even have some, psychological effect of missing teeth, which is very common. You may even be embarrassed about your smile. You don't leave the house like you used to. You don't smile around kids or grandkids or pictures, right? You avoid those things. And you realize you're losing yourself. And some of you may even say, I've already lost myself, your true self, right? Your personality before missing teeth. And some of you may even have like other dental products like dentures or partial dentures, things you have to glue or constantly adjust and so on and so forth. So, or just the nasty glue that a lot of patients are having to use, and you're just kind of over all of those removable products, you're in the right place, okay? So just to quickly go over some of these locations that we have, okay? So we have an awesome location here in Salt Lake City, Utah. We have a great location in Plano, Texas, just north Dallas there. We have Fort Worth, which is actually in Keller, right outside of South Lake. We have a Houston, Texas location, Denver, Colorado, San Antonio, Texas. We're actually in Marietta, Georgia, which is just north of Atlanta. Then we have a Phoenix, Arizona. We have an Austin, Texas, a Las Vegas, Nevada, an Orlando, awesome place in Orlando, Chevy Chase, Maryland, so just north of DC. And then we have a Fort Lauderdale, Florida location as well. And then for those that maybe there right in the Central South, we also have our new location in Nashville, Tennessee, which is an awesome, awesome spot. So now if you didn't see a location near you, still stay tuned with us because I'm going to show you how we have hundreds of patients flying all around the country to one of our Nuvia locations. And I know that may sound crazy. Why wouldn't they just go to a place down the street? Why would they get on a plane and literally fly across the country to a Nuvia? Well, that is going to be in the information that I go over during this webinar, okay? Now, hopefully a lot of you have seen some of our YouTube channel. If not, I highly encourage you to do so. You will get lost watching these things. They're very uplifting. The transformations are uplifting, and they're also full of information, so I highly encourage you to check out our YouTube channel as well. If you're like me, you prefer a little bit shorter content, our Instagram, Facebook, our Facebook page is awesome. And then also, we all know we're on that TikTok right now. So we have TikTok videos with like millions of views on it. They're really awesome. So anyway, if you don't currently follow us on those, please go ahead and follow us. And really, obviously we encourage you to come see one of our centers, because what I did is I took all the reviews from our company, okay, throughout our multiple locations, and I just combined them here. And really with our average of 4.9, I'm telling y'all, you really don't get reviews like that unless you have the best people. And I'm telling you, when you do meet some of our staff, they're amongst the best people in the industry. So obviously great reviews, and then obviously just follow us on social media so you can get really an inside look of what we're doing. So to kind of kick a few things off here, the first patient I like to talk about is my friend Tom. I was personally here when Tom walked through the doors, and as we can see, we're really looking at two different people here. The Tom on the left, when he came in, he let us know, just like most good people, like he let us know he put his wife and his kids first, and dental, medical, financially put them first and kind of put himself on the back burner per se. And he was taking care of his wife. Unfortunately, his wife got very ill and passed away. And Tom just let us know he was just left in kind of a, rough spot, mentally, everything, just in a tough spot, and really let his teeth go. And after infection and 3 years afterwards of staying in that state, he let us know, hey, I want to get back out there. I want to date. I want to go out with my friends. And he was letting us know, like, the way he goes to church, the way he goes to work, like, it was all different, and he wanted it back. And that's what you see on the right. Like, you see this person that is back to themselves, that is just acting totally different than what they were, that is reserved, doesn't really put himself out there, to someone who does, which is just so much fun. And that's something we very commonly see is people getting them true selves back, okay? The next patient I want to talk about is Nuvia. I love Nuvia because when we met Nuvia was 91 years old. And I'm telling you guys, after sitting down with over 4,000 people, I hear all the time, I'm too old to make this investment. It's not worth it, whatever. And so I asked Nuvia, I'm like, you're 91, and I'm sure there may be some people that would question your investment. And she goes, you know what? I've already missed out on the small, simple things for the last 10 years. So whether I'm here for another year or another 10, like I want those simple pleasures back with my family, right? And the funniest thing was is her goal was to get back to In-N-Out Burger. Like that was one of the simple pleasures that she's like, I haven't had that I want back, and just a simple enjoyment. And so we obviously took Nuvia back after some healing, obviously, to get back to some of those crunchy foods. And we got Nuvia back to her favorite burger place. And anyway, just a fun journey to watch her just remind me of the simple things that we miss out on with missing teeth that we can quickly get back, right? And the last person I want to talk about is our friend Laura. As you can see here, and some of y'all may be in a similar situation, that Laura had a lot of existing teeth, but what we can see are these are crowns and root canals and bridges. And unfortunately, underneath that was all failing dental work, right? And so after, she let me know spending $20,000 the last couple of years trying to patch her teeth up, and it still wasn't working. She wanted something that was more permanent, longer lasting. And that is where we see Laura on the right, that she has a beautiful set of teeth that no longer decays or requires those patchwork, per se, dental procedures. And now she just keeps it clean, right? I mean, that's really what a lot of people can really justify going into the dental implant, is getting rid of all the patchwork that's necessary for all these big investments Laura made. So that pulls us right into our first topic of how to eliminate your regular dental issues with the procedure only takes 24 hours, and talk a little bit about the pain, okay? Because Chris, he came in, he let us know, hey, I served in our military. Unfortunately, during the 70s, 80s, like an extraction was the most common, diagnosis for a lot of those guys. And so he let me know after getting just tons of extractions, it really traumatized him, the pain, the experience of having something removed. And it really stuck with him. He almost didn't even come in to see us because of that experience. So I kind of want to address what he let us know as well, because the first thing you need to know is step one is the consultation. Really just seeing if you're a candidate, right? And so first thing is it's just an x-ray that goes around, gives us a great image of what your bone looks like, your teeth look like, see if you're an actual candidate for the dental implant. And so we let people know, like, you're not sitting in a dental chair, there's no poking and probbing and all those kind of things. It's literally an x-ray that will show us what you need, and obviously sit down with someone to explain how treatment works, okay? So this patient here, these bone levels that are up here and down here, normally those bone levels are up here, right? So along the crowns of the teeth. So we can see these teeth are no longer salvable, right? Because they're becoming loose. But we also want to make sure that we have plenty of bone, because we have nerves along our lower jaw, we have sinus cavities on our upper jaw, and we can't have implants in those, right? And so we need to make sure there's plenty of bone around those things that would obviously still be enough height and width to place the dental implant. Even when we're just missing partial, sections of our mouth, as we can see on this patient, bone levels up here, but when we see that those back missing teeth, that's, that dip in bone level, well, there's that nerve here, right? And so we need to make sure anytime we're missing multiple teeth that we obviously get ahead of that bone loss, that we're able to see if we're an actual implant candidate before the opportunity's gone, right? And that's obviously the big urgency behind looking into the dental implants, is everyone is on a clock, per se, of that bone leaving us, right? So really, definitely when I introduce Duncan and Bishop here in a minute, like, we obviously are going to brag about how cool we are, okay? And like how awesome Nuvia is. And the real way that you have to understand that, or how you can understand that, is you have to understand what the norm is. I mean, what is everyone else doing? What's Teeth-In-A-Day? What's the same day smile? What's the traditional all-on-4? Well, how does that work, so that you can really see a comparison of how our permanent teeth in 24 hours works? So let me walk you through the Teeth-In-A-Day process, okay? Because what they're doing is, after they remove your teeth, they place 4 to 6 dental implants in your jaw. And then what they do is they take these dentures. Now, these are just traditional, normal acrylic dentures, okay? And what they're trying to do is trying to convert those into a temporary set of teeth. So they're taking these dentures and placing those the day of your surgery, right? And so the way they do that is they shave down the denture, they cut the roof of the mouth out of it, they blast holes through it and put these little housings in here. And that is actually what the patient wakes up with in their mouth, right? So you're waking up with a temporary denture, kind of a placeholder, and that's what you wake up with in your mouth with the same day smile, okay, is a temporary set. And I've worked for a place that has done these, and I'm telling you, you guys, there's a little bit of a guesswork, as you can kind of see in this one here, where you blast holes, you're trying to kind of make sure they fit perfect around the implants, you're melting plastic back around it, and that's where you see a lot of this misalignment and underbite. Well, not only that, but for anyone that's used dentures before, you know they're not the strongest material, right? And so when you blast holes all through it, right, you're going to make that fragile. You're going to make that very, easy to break. And so we see with a large volume of patients that with those temporary teeth, if they ever put any pressure down on those, they'll just snap, right? And you have to go back constantly to replace those things or to get them patched up. And really, I think I'm confident to say that myself included and the majority of the people on this webinar, we don't actually love going to the dentist, right? That's not like our favorite place to be. And I think that what a lot of people, when they start looking into Teeth-In-A-Day, one thing that really turns them away is the amount of visits. Like the amount of time that it actually takes before you're done with your teeth is a lot longer than what the commercial shows, okay? And so the reason that is when you have your temporary denture in and you heal for 4 to 6 months, right? Well, now you have to undergo this process. This is called a wax try-in appointment. And that's where they bring teeth that are made out of wax. They put those in, and then you bite down on paper, see where your teeth don't touch, send it back to the lab. The lab takes 2 to 3 weeks. They send it back to us, and they put those in, and you do that constantly, right? Well, 2 to 3 weeks in between that lab visit, that's where we go from 6 months out to 8 months, 10 months, 12 months. I've met multiple people that were in them for 15 months, just depending on the provider you go to, right? How many wax try-ins you need. And so really what was Teeth-In-A-Day easily turns into an 8, 10, 12-month process before you're actually into your final, typically the materials zirconia. Before you're into those teeth, takes multiple visits and multiple months. And that's really what wears and tears on us, right, when we're going to a dental office. So now that you really understand that Teeth-In-A-Day traditional all-on-4 per se method, you can really appreciate, kind of why we do brag a little bit about our permanent teeth in 24 hours, because this is how our process works. And I'll kind of use my buddy Butch as an example, because Butch was kind of in a unique situation. He lived in a small island in Alaska and started looking into dental implants, came across Teeth-In-A-Day, started calling some centers, learning, well, geez, I'm going to have to go there X amount of times. I mean, just the airfare and cost of going there is going to drown me, right? So he almost gave up. He came across Nuvia, and I want to show you guys how we were able to fly Butch on a Monday into our Salt Lake City, Utah location, meet with him, take a scan, design his smile, and do his surgery Tuesday, and then give him his final set of teeth on Wednesday. Take him out for pasta that night before he flies back home to Alaska. Like, check this out. It's really cool. So the first thing is we're going to digitally design. Hello, we live in the year 2023. Why are we still doing things out of wax, right? Like, we have technology to where we can digitally design his bite and his smile and how it's going to look before we even do the surgery, which is so cool. Like, we can literally design where everything's going to fit before we even have the patient come in that day, okay? So this is like simple of how it turned out for Butch, obviously before. So then we digitally design his bite and his smile. We remove his teeth, place the dental implants. You go home, you sleep off all the anesthesia for 24 hours, and you come back in the very next day, and then boom, there's Butch with a beautiful final set of teeth with literally within 24 hours of the surgery. And so these are his finals. He doesn't have to obviously go through the process of all the wax try-ins to get out of those temporary teeth, right? And so obviously this was just a really cool experience. This photo of Butch, eating pasta, you guys, is literally 2 hours after getting his teeth installed. It is literally 26, 27 hours after he got his teeth removed. Like, that's not normal. Like, that's crazy. Most of the time you have to be on a liquid diet, soft, like liquid diet for weeks, depending on where you go. But here at Nuvia, you can actually go back to eating soft foods the day your teeth are installed, which is awesome. So get you back eating soft foods immediately. We do want you to stay on soft foods for about, 4 to 6 months, just depending on how quickly you heal. And so we caught up with Butch, further down the road, and he just showed us he's back, to ripping chicken off the wing, obviously, and jerky, and just totally back to normality as far as limitations of what to eat, right? Which is so cool. And so that is the process of how we get into our permanent teeth in 24 hours, right? So we have our consultation, our smile design appointment where we go over color and design, and then we will have the surgery where we remove the teeth, place the dental implants, sleep off the anesthesia, give us 24 hours, come back in the very next day. We place your permanent set of teeth. We'll see you 2 weeks for a quick checkup, and then not till 4 months for the last, checkup. Make sure we can cut you loose back to eating the steak, carrots, peanuts, Skittles, whatever you're limited to before. You're totally free game now. And then we just see you once a year for a cleaning. So very, very minimal compared to the alternative, right? So now that you understand the differences, let's talk a little bit about how do we save thousands in dental costs, okay? Let's talk a little bit more about cost and how this all plays a role here, okay? So I got this data here off of carecredit.com. They're a big payment plan partner for a lot of dental offices. The majority of dental offices use them as like a payment plan, okay? And I've worked in general dentistry before as well. And I'm telling you, for like a root canal and a crown, which is really like the last ditch effort to save the tooth, okay? So if you did a root canal and a crown on a tooth, historically what I have found is that is $2,500 for a root canal, a buildup, and a crown. You're at $2,500 just for that one tooth. Well, my friends, we have 32 teeth in our mouth. So if we have 10 teeth that we have to do this to, you're already at $25,000 just to patch those things up. And so, once again, I'm pretty real, dude. Like, I've sat down with thousands of people, and obviously I hear every day, Landon, dental implants are really expensive. And I'm like, hey, I totally understand. But dentistry itself is very expensive, right? Like when you're repairing your entire mouth all at one time, like other than dentures, there is not like this wonderful cheap solution. And so my grandfather, when I moved on his farm, he always told me sometimes in life you can walk through, cow poop or goat poop. There's not always a green pasture option, right? That's just easy. Like it's going to be an investment in your mouth to get it to where you want it to be, where it's healthy, depending on how long it's gone before you've seen a dentist or other alternatives of your health, right? And so I just make the point that like even general dentistry patching things back up, it's still it's a big investment in yourself, right? And we even had one of our patients in Denver tell us like he's actually spent more trying to patch his teeth together than he would his dental implants, right? And then obviously our main man Duncan here, who's going to introduce himself, he gave us a great review, and it obviously stands out. He says, based on my teeth problems, I believe I would have paid as much to repair my teeth for the rest of my life than my implants cost. But here's the kicker, right? Here's the logic. The blessing is there's no longer lingering problems, right? And that is really why a lot of people, depending on how unhealthy those teeth are, will lean more towards the dental implant rather than the countless years and visits to patch their mouth back up, okay? So really, with dental insurance and health insurance, I get asked, well, how does that work? So dental insurance to me can be a little hard to understand just because on the card it always says covers 50%, 80%. So a lot of people come in that think, oh, they're going to cover 50, 80% of my dental implants. Well, unfortunately, dental insurance, it all has a maximum or a cap. And really what I have found is it's between $1,000 and $2,000, which means like once you use that, it's gone, right? So really in the sense of dental implants, which most insurances count as a cosmetic, right? Like they don't really fork out even the maximum is what I see. And so it's very small, or not really what I say a deciding factor of getting the dental implants. And now with health insurance, I'll tell you guys, like here at Nuvia, we have banged our head against a wall. We have tried to help patients that have had cancer, car accidents, diabetes, things that literally with their health have shown to hurt their teeth. And we did not get any reimbursements for the patients. And really what they deem it is an elective surgery. The standard of care for insurances is dentures. If you're electing to invest more in yourself, like a platinum or a better version, then that's when their coverage stops. And so when you're electing to do something better than dentures, that's where health insurance kind of cuts off as well. So we don't really see much reimbursements from these insurances for dental implants. And so really, maybe some of you now knowing like, hey, insurance doesn't cover these things, but maybe I just can't afford it. But I want to talk about a couple patients that came in with a different mindset. For them, they're like, how can I do it instead of I can never do it, right? They had that mindset. So First off, one is, am I a candidate? And so my friend Sharana here, like when she was looking into, dental implants, the first thing that came to her mind is like, can I even do it? Right? Like, do I have enough healthy bone? Right? Do I have the medical necessity I need to do it? Then what would my payment actually be? Right? Like, what would I actually have to do to get my smile back and get my health back? Okay. So let's talk a little bit about monthly payments, because truthfully, 90% of our patients enroll in some type of payment plan. Okay. So the first thing that we need is a decent credit score. And what I mean by that is around a 675 or above. Okay. That's what I truthfully see some of these lenders actually lending for the payment plans, is with that credit score or above. Okay. Now, when we're doing just one upper or lower sets of teeth, then you can expect a payment anywhere from $250 to $450 a month. When you're doing a full mouth, upper and lower, you can really plan for it to double that, and it'd be $500 to $900 a month. Obviously, this big gap is just depending on the terms, how much you put down, interest rate. Obviously, all those things play a role in what that payment would be. But Sharana, who did just her upper set of teeth, she was like, hey, honestly, for me in that payment, that's only 2 Starbucks drinks a day, a Chick-fil-A salad. Like, if I could actually just pack my lunch instead of going out once a day, you're telling me I can make this awesome investment. And when you compare a Chick-fil-A salad to a brand new smile that you once had, or maybe have never had, right? You have infections and other things, and obviously your personality is different. Like, what an easy decision for her, right? And for a lot of people, that it's like, that is way more meaningful. That is way more worth where I should put my funding each month, is in myself, right? Because that's the greatest investment we can make, is in ourselves. And I just loved her mindset and the way that she kind of talked to us about that, because that is truthfully kind of a ballpark of our monthly payments and what it would fall out to be. Okay. So if you're thinking, well, geez, I just don't know if I have enough extra room in my budget for those things. We've had multiple patients with that mindset of, well, how can I do it? And one was Alma, and she introduced me to Instacart. Like, Instacart, anyone can do it. You literally just download the app and you're hired, right? Like, you're off to the races. And so she just makes a few delivery groceries a week. Like, she said she only makes like 4 or 5 grocery deliveries a week. And that gave her the extra few $100s to actually make that room in her budget to accomplish her goal of getting her new smile. And it got me thinking, there's tons of things that work that way, like DoorDash, Uber Eats, Instacart, Uber, Lyft. These are things anyone can start doing at any time. Now, if you live in a remote area and you actually just want to do it from home, another patient introduced me to rev.com. That just go to the website, hit freelancer, and you're just listening to audio and then transcribing it out into words. And she was making an extra few $100s a month that actually paid for her teeth. So there's many ways of how we see patients do it, which is awesome. Now, the last thing that I want to cover before introducing our guest here again is, the question of like, well, why don't I just go out of country to save cost, right? I hear that question all the time. And I'll be honest, you guys, I actually asked the patient if I could take a picture of this one. I've seen good come back out of the country, and I've seen bad come back out of the country. Okay, I've seen both. But I sat down with this patient a couple years ago, and really we can see these implants, right? These are our sinus cavities. You're not supposed to have implants up there, obviously, okay? So we have these wacky implants up in the sinus, all this darkness around the implants, right? This is all bone loss. These implants are all failing. And I'm telling you guys, one of the saddest things I see is it's really hard for these people to even find a stateside doctor to take on their case. Because when you remove all these implants, it actually softens the bone. You have to do bone grafting and other things. And that can add time and cost, but it also, adds liability. And a lot of doctors are like, I don't even want to touch this case. It is already off to a really bad start, and I don't want to be liable for when it doesn't work. And so I've met patients that go to countless offices trying to find someone to even just help fix it, okay? And not only that, but, I always say, man, if it was really that cheap and that perfect, like, why isn't everyone just doing it? And it's because it's really not. I mean, by the time you take off work, travel, go down there multiple times, go anywhere multiple times, like, it doesn't always end up being that cost savings that people are looking for, right? And that's why a lot of people who obviously, like Nuvia, they want to go to a place that it's done by an oral surgeon, right? That is certified, that you have an anesthesiologist, someone that can monitor your vitals and keep you safe during the surgery, right? And then you have prosthodontists. Those are people that go to 3 years of additional schooling to learn about how your teeth come together and how they fit and how to make your bite perfect, right? And so we have all those big three things here at Nuvia, and I'm sure we could all agree that just sounds more like it, right? This allows us to warranty services and obviously protect our patients of a big investment that they make in themselves, right? And speaking of those patients, I really want to bring back our friends here with Duncan and Bishop, and I want to bring them back because they are a good example, obviously, of everything that I'm talking about, and people that really wanted to invest in themselves. And obviously, I would love for them to kind of share, some of the things that they've seen different in their life, and really what helped them make that decision to get their dental implant treatment. So I would love to start with my friend Bishop here in Atlanta, Georgia, and have him kind of share his story. And obviously, like I said, we'll bring him back to answer any questions. But Bishop, go ahead, my man.
Hi, Landon. Hi, everybody. Nuvia Nation. Um, I'm Bishop. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and I can honestly say that choosing Nuvia was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life. I was one of those patients who, every time there was some kind of dental issue, um, usually a toothache, it would sometimes wake me up in the middle of the night. I had sleepless nights, and I've spent many of my years being what's known as an essential worker. And so I just kind of learned how to work through the pain. But it got to the point to where every time I could no longer bear it, the only option that I had from my dental professional was to remove the tooth. And it got to the point to where I had so many teeth removed on one side at the top and so many teeth removed on the other side at the bottom, it literally became increasingly hard for me to process food, chew food, enjoy food, smile, laugh, joke. And it just really got to the point that I was so frustrated. I just one night said, okay, I really need to do something about this. And that's where my journey began. I cruising through social media, ran across a Nuvia ad, and I actually had been looking at different ads on social media. And when Nuvia popped up, I said, okay, well, let me give these people a try. Honestly, the best decision I've ever made because it really truly changed my life.
It's awesome. Bishop, I'm going to kind of surprise you with the question here, okay?
Okay.
Um, but what would you say has been like the biggest thing that's happened in your life that you kind of weren't planning on happening when you signed up for your teeth? I guess what are some of the surprises that have come after getting your teeth done?
Honestly, some of the surprises that I have achieved, I've noticed a drastic and almost instantaneous change in my overall health. And that really surprised me. I noticed that my energy levels were just had tremendously gone up and were through the roof. I noticed that I had a little bit more energy to move around. I don't know if it was the increased level of confidence or what it was, but I also was able to successfully stop smoking. And I had my surgery almost 9 months ago. So to have gone this long without smoking is truly a surprising accomplishment. Um, I've had people that I don't even know uh, just come up and compliment me, boy, you have a beautiful smile, or wow, your teeth are really white, your teeth are really, perfect. Like, and it's always reassuring, to be able to smile and say thank you, whenever someone takes note and whenever someone does compliment you. But that was one of the biggest things that other people, I didn't realize just how important having a good, healthy smile was until I started receiving recognition from total strangers.
Yeah, man, that's so awesome. I think, when we have infections in our mouth, a lot of people don't even realize how that pumps through our body and slows us down. And then you match that with any type of nicotine use, and that slows some things down. And so you quit both of those at one time. I mean, yeah, you're running
Mm,
marathons, man. That's
indeed,
great.
indeed.
Awesome. Thank you, Bishop. I appreciate it. And
My
Duncan,
pleasure.
I'd love to introduce you too, man, and just have you kind of share a little bit about your Nuvia journey as well, and kind of go from there.
All right. Well, Landon, thanks so much for the opportunity. My name's Duncan. I'm from the Denver office, and I've had my implants for 2 years and 1 month. I am thrilled about having my new teeth. what I realized was by the time I got to Nuvia, I had had 15 root canals. I had of those, 3 of those root canals finally break off enough that they had to be pulled. I had multiple crowns on all those root canals. Often the crown would break, requiring that I have to get a new crown put on it. And I called this the Band-Aid approach to life. It never really fixed the problem. We just spent a bunch of money, put a Band-Aid on it, and I left until the pain got so severe that I had to go back. What prompted me to go to Nuvia, hadn't been to the dentist in years, and I had just gone to a new dentist. And as she went through the process, came in and said, well, I think we've got about a year's worth of work to get your teeth where they're supposed to be. And the idea of spending a year dealing with all the same old things was not appealing to me at all. In the meantime, I had been looking at the social media, YouTube, things like that, and I had run across Nuvia. And the thing that struck me was the concept of 24 hours. I just had a doctor tell me it was going to take a year just to fix what she saw. And Nuvia was saying I could have a whole new set of teeth in 24 hours. I went to my wife and I said, well, I'm not going to go back to the dentist. I've just decided I don't want to do that anymore. And she understood that and shook her head yes to me. And I said, but what I've decided is I'm going to go in and get dental implants, have all my teeth removed, and have full implants in my mouth. And if you're a dog lover and you've ever seen a dog tilt their head at you, like, what in the world is this person saying to me? My sweet wife had that response, followed by, if that's what you want to do, let's go do it. I went down to Nuvia. I went through the process. They asked me questions I didn't even have words for, basically, making sure that they had all the information necessary to give me my beautiful smile. I go in, it's done. Now again, well, I shouldn't say again, I'm a cynic at heart. I typically have gone through life thinking at some point when a bunch of promises are made, the brick's gonna fall, hit you in the head and tell you, I told you so. 2 years and 1 month after the day I got my new teeth, no bricks hit me in the head yet. I don't plan on that either. What I realized was I just wanted to get new teeth. I've had people I've known 50 years, and when I got my new smile, put it on Facebook, the common response was, gosh, I never knew you had teeth problems. And my response was, that's because you never saw my teeth. I never smiled with my mouth open. If I laughed out loud, I put my hand over my mouth. And these people that have known me a long, long time had no clue. What I love to do now is smile. I hated having a picture taken. There you go. Because
let us show us a picture.
That's great. That one on the before, that's just, again, to get that much of my teeth showing, yeah. that was pretty remarkable. And now I simply love the concept. As Bishop mentioned, I had years of medical issues. And in fact, I just had my yearly checkup just last week with my doctor. And he said, you know, I really do believe that tooth infections cause all kinds of other problems throughout the body. the 2 years before I got my implants, I'd had multiple infections around my body. One led to being sepsis and got me a week in the hospital. And since I got my implant, at least in my situation, I've not had one sickness at all. So I am so excited. For me, the money issue was I knew how much I'd spent over the course of my life. And when the doctor said how much work she saw for me to do, I thought it's going to be easy to spend this much money on the Band-Aid approach again, rather than having a new set of teeth that I could smile. And here 2 years later, I'm here to tell you folks, it's the best decision I ever made on my dental in my life. I have a family at the Denver office. These people know me by name. They answered every question I asked. They gave me answers to questions I didn't even know I had. And 2 years later, when I go into the Nuvia office, they know me by name. It's not phony. My cynicism has never gotten to say, aha, there, I knew it was coming. These are just folks that I have fallen in love with. They are brothers and sisters. And if you're looking for something to get you out of medical problems focused around your teeth, if you would love to smile again, Bishop and I are just prime as far as I can't say much about the rest of my face. That's just what the good Lord gave me. But these teeth make me just feel so comfortable in my own skin. And so I hope you will give Nuvia a chance, walk in the door and see how much true love and affection will meet you. And as I said, I've made friends for life. So I'm excited with this opportunity to share my story. Thanks so much, Landon.
No, thank you, Duncan. That's great. So really, these two are just, by the way, it's whenever I ask the question, like, well, what's come without, that's a surprise to you. I mean, obviously being on a webinar might be something you didn't plan on when you walk through the door at the very beginning, but even this is an example of like, who am I going to meet? Who am I going to know with the new smile, right? And what's actually going to happen in my life afterwards? Like, if I could just help people see a tenth of it, it'd be a no-brainer decision, right? And so thank you guys so much for just being on for a minute and helping people see hopefully just a tenth of what it's done for you guys. Okay, first question. So we're going to refer this one to Duncan. So Duncan, obviously after your dental implants, right, we do have you on soft foods for about 4 to 5 months. Pasta, meatloaf, a little bit softer foods. But where we don't want any bad expectations, like you were saying, we want you to get back to total normality as far as like diet and eating, right? So the question is how easy is it to eat a steak now? And then I'm going to have you hit that. There we go.
Yeah, there we go. It is so wonderful to eat a steak because my teeth before, although I had most of the teeth still in my mouth, they were broken and crooked and crumbling. And I have no issue at all eating a steak. One of my favorite meals used to be we would make our own Mexican food, and chomping down on a hard corn tortilla is just so exciting. And I didn't miss a thing in the changing of my teeth. Actually, it made it easier to chew, quite frankly, because I wasn't concerned about either pain in my mouth or teeth that weren't going to last if I chewed another tortilla. So it went great. I love steak, by the way. Me and cows go back a long way.
Yeah. And, My mom calls it cow jaw when you're missing your back molars and you're, trying to find where they touch, right? It's not that you can't eat some things when you're missing teeth, it's how you're eating them. And unfortunately,
Absolutely.
when you get on these patterns, right, and then we fix your bite, some people have jaw problems and other things because they've just been adapting the way they eat or eating on one side. Well, guess what? That makes this work so much harder than this, and so on and so forth. So hopefully after a few months to find some balance, you're definitely back once again to the normality of not having to adjust everything. So
Yeah.
that's a great question. Very cool. And like I said, we'd love for anyone, if you have any questions that we need to put on there. Okay. Great question. So let's talk a little bit about cost. Okay. Really, when we're talking about removing our teeth and having just a full new set, so our teeth are no longer salvable, right? We want to restart. There's really only 3 options that we have. And the best way I can describe it is, well, so we have dentures, we have snap-in dentures, and we have dental implants that are fixed. They're permanent, okay? I kind of compare it to a unicycle, a bicycle, and a car. Like they both have, or all 3 of them have gears and wheels, right? And they'll help you move to A to B. But obviously, they're very different products, right? You don't go to a dealership looking for a unicycle, and you don't go to a unicycle dealership looking for a car. And so it depends on what you want it to do. Obviously, it will dictate what you want to spend on it, okay? Because dentures, really dentures you'll see for like upper and lower anywhere from $4,000 to $8,000, right, for a set of dentures. Well, then you have snap-in dentures. Those are the ones that click in and out. And so they're a little bit better than the denture, but they still, you're clicking them in and out. So they're constantly having to be replaced on the clips. You're tugging on your implants on and off every day, which doesn't give it the longevity that a lot of people are looking for. And then you have the fixed, or so those snap-in dentures I see anywhere from 18 to 30 grand. And these are all statewide averages, by the way. And then you have the fixed permanent set of teeth. Those are the ones that don't come in and out. They are permanent. And here in the States, I see anywhere on the high end is like 58,000, and it goes all the way down to around 40,000. And they go anywhere in between, okay? And so, at Nuvia, obviously we're kind of more towards the lower end of the ballpark, but you're going to see that range no matter where you go. So the question from Linda is, can you do like one upper or lower set of teeth first, right? That's a great question. So it totally depends, Linda, on how many teeth you have on the opposing set. And so for an example, if you only got, let's use an extreme example, you only have 2 teeth left in the front. When we build your lowers, there's nowhere to actually like build it to where they would bite, right? And so you won't be able to, it wouldn't work very well, right? But if you still have 6 or 7 teeth to where we can match it and help connect and so you can eat, we can totally start with one arch. And then what a lot of patients will do is they'll just work really hard on paying off that lower set of teeth first and then coming back and doing their upper. So 8 times out of 10, you can totally start with one. It just depends. Or some people, their teeth have shifted all over. And so they kind of have this roller coaster effect. Well, if we only do one, then you have to make the other teeth kind of like a roller coaster so you can eat. And so there are some limitations, but 8 times out of 10, we can start with just one lower or upper set of teeth. So absolutely, I would say your odds are very high that you'd be able to do that for sure. And there's other things that we can do to help, right? To help give us a surface to where we can build your teeth, because we want it to work and look beautiful for sure. Great question. And then what we'll do is we'll take about 4 more minutes just to answer any other last minute questions that we may have. And then we will go from there. Luckily, Bishop doesn't have a Braves game today. They have an off day. So he's got time. Okay, looks like that may be all the questions that we have. So what we can do, like I said, if you have any big questions though, oh, here we go. Sorry, Mary. Let me catch up here on this one. Okay. Is there always a gap between your gums and the arch? Yes, there are. Like when there is we call it a transition line. So when the prosthetic per se meets your gum up here, there is a transition line. But I would love for Bishop to kind of answer this one of just, how do you keep it clean? Obviously, you don't see it, right? And so anyway, Bishop, maybe you can kind of give us some insight on how you keep that space up there clean. Has anyone ever, in your smile, I'm guessing for you, seeing your smile so often, no one ever sees it or anything, but maybe you can kind of answer that a little bit more from someone who's had it done.
Absolutely. So when I went in for my treatment, they were telling me about this product called Superfloss. And it comes in a little box. It's kind of got like a little hard bristle at one end and a soft cotton feeling towards the middle. And then you have the regular dental floss string towards the end. And the way you do it is just at the transition line, you actually slide the hard bristle in through underneath the prosthetic and the gum line, and you're able to work it to a point to where you can actually really get a nice deep cleaning in between the space. And I'll tell you, the space is actually really so minimal that it's not a lot of food particles and matter that actually get caught in there. One of the other things that I like to do is I like to use my water pick. In the beginning, I had some difficulties getting used to the water pick itself, and now I find it quite fun. I look forward to, waking up in the morning and coming home at night and actually, not only brushing my teeth and using the super floss, but actually using that water pick because it comes with a bunch of different attachments, and I can actually really go in there and make sure that I don't have any food particles in between on that transition line or in between the prosthetic and my gum line. And so it's actually become kind of fun for me. But yeah, you can. There are several ways that you can do it. Obviously, you can't see it, but it's very very low maintenance, very easy to do. You just use the floss like you would, pull out and go into another entry point at the back or in between where they've actually placed the post, and you can actually really get a good deep cleaning with that super floss and or with the water pick.
Perfect. Yeah, and Bishop, you really hit on a point that I like to bring up too is just like with natural teeth, like I have small spaces in between my teeth that I have to floss, but it's not like I get big things like when you wear dentures, you get tons of stuff underneath it. It's not like that. Like it's just like spaces in between your teeth. You just floss and water pick between it, but it's not like you fill big pieces of food or anything like that. So
no, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah. Cool. And then, Mary's question, is it true you have to take your prosthetics out every year? That's a really good question because I have patients that come in and they're like, yeah, the last place told me I have to take them out every 3 months, right? Which in our opinion, we believe that actually removing the prosthetic constantly is actually bad for it because there's little threads and screws. And when you're constantly taking it in and out, you can actually damage those things. So it's kind of like if you asked a mechanic, like, hey, can you take my engine apart, just check to see if there's something wrong? Like they'd be like, heck no, right? And so, really coming in and just having it cleaned and x-rayed and making sure it's all clean and nice, there's really no reason to actually unscrew it all the time. But we do have you come in once a year to have it cleaned. If it's super full of gunk and you're really bad at cleaning it, then obviously we'd have to remove it to deep clean it. But the idea is to actually clean around it and keep it installed. Very good. All right, my friends. Well, this has been awesome. Thank you for all your great questions. We'll look forward to seeing those that have went to do their consult at the office, and we will see you then. Thank you so much.